If everyone out the front could come in, we're going to start. Hello? If everyone out the front could come in, we're going to start. Tonight we had Dan, or this afternoon we had Dan and Fran over for lunch with us, and Hans asked Dan if he would sing a couple of songs tonight. So we're going to be pleasured with Dan singing for Hans. And just before we start, I'd just like to have a word of prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you, Lord, for this evening. We thank you for Dr. Diehl. And Lord, we just ask that as he gives his message, that each person would be convicted to what he's talking about. In your name I pray, amen. So without further ado, we'll get Dan to come up and sing us a couple of songs that he's been requesting.
Well, all right. The first song I've been asked to do is a song that I wrote about 6 years ago, and it actually came right out of this church. I don't know if you remember the function that you had where everybody did something pertinent to their country, and I wrote a little song called Canada, Oh Canada. I recently went into the studio and had it recorded, so I'm going to share it with you now. Aren't we all proud of our athletes, what they did in Sochi? Isn't it amazing? Wow. Because I'm an old hockey player myself, right? And so really proud of what they did. So Ray, if you want to start that, and you tell me what you think of this song. We turned it up loud enough, maybe they'll hear it downtown. Come on. Canada, oh Canada, there's no better place to be, where one and all stand free and tall, the only place for you and me. From the East Coast to the West, Canada's the best. All the other nations know that our veterans paid the cost, so our freedom wasn't lost. And now our kids are free to grow. You can sing if you want to. Canada. Canada. Oh, Canada. There's no better place to be, where one and all stand free and tall, the only place for you and me. Other countries might have a bomb, but we had Stompin' Tom. What more can I say? He wrote that hockey song, we're so glad he came along. No one can take our game away. How do you like it so far? Hans likes it. We must be strong in our belief and defend the maple leaf. It's the symbol of our land. If we laugh and love and pray, good things will come our way, and the world will understand. Canada, oh Canada, there's no better place to be, where one and all stand free and tall, the only place for you and me. Canada, Oh, Canada, there's no better place to be, where one and all stand free and tall. The only place for you and me, the only place for you and me. God bless Canada and our U.S. neighbors too. Well, all right, here's Kathy's got me doing. I bet you could tell what Kathy's got me doing now, because she always gets me to do this song. And I'm glad, because I really like this song. I really do. If you don't know any other song, just keep doing this one. It's a good one. It's called God on the Mountain. Life is easy when you're up on the mountain and you've got peace of mind like you've never known. Then things change and you're down in the valley. Don't lose faith, for you're never alone. Come on, Kathy, you know it. For the God on the mountain is still God in the valley. When things go wrong, He'll make them right. And the God of the good times is still God in the bad times. The God of the day is still God in the night. You talk of faith when you're up on the mountain. Talk comes so easy when life's at its best, but it's down in the valley, through trials and temptations, that's when faith is really put to the test. For the God on the mountain is still God in the valley. When things go wrong, He'll make them right. And the God of the good times is still God in the bad times. The God of the day is still God in the night. Yes, the God of the day is still God in the night. All right, she's asked me to do one. It's been a while since I did this song, but it's a beautiful song. I know many of you be familiar with it. It's called Above All. This is the Randy Travis version, actually. I trust you'll enjoy this one. Above All. Above all powers, above all kings, above all nations and all created things, above all wisdom and all the ways of man, you were here before the world began. Above all kingdoms, above all thrones, above all wonders this world has ever known, above all wealth and treasures of the earth. There's no way to measure what he's worth. Crucified, laid behind a stone, you live to die, rejected and alone like a rose, trampled in the ground. You took the fall and thought of me above all powers, above all kings, above all nations and all created things, above all wisdom and all the ways of man. You were here before the world began. Above all kingdoms, above all thrones, above all wonders this world has ever known, above all wealth and treasures of the earth. There's no way to measure what you're worth. Come on now. Crucified, laid behind a stone, you live to die, rejected and alone like a rose, trampled on the ground. You took the fall and thought of me above all. Crucified, laid behind a stone, you live to die, rejected and alone like a rose, trampled on the ground. You took the fall and thought of me above all. Like a rose trampled on the ground, you took the fall and thought of me above all. Thank you for singing along with me. Thank you.
You never came here to listen to me tonight, I know that, but just want to let you know that we've had Dr. Diehl in our home all week, and he's just so personable, so easy to get along with. You give him food, he eats. And, you know, like he doesn't ask what's in it, he just eats. And this morning we sat there chatting about family for probably an hour or more before we had breakfast. Kathy had gone to work, so we both got a chance to say something. Oh. I'm going to stay sitting over on this side tonight. Everybody knows Kathy, so they understand what I'm saying. So without further ado, and he's a family man. He has 2 grown children that are married. He has 4 grandchildren. He understands family issues. His daughter lives in Colorado Springs. His son is an orthodontist right there, I think, in the Loma Linda area. So we had a long talk about family and different things this morning. So just a little different information about Dr. Diehl than all his doctorates and all that stuff. Dr. Diehl.
I'm not stealing his applause at all. We prayed in the corner, 2 of us, and Dr. Diehl came up to me. It is important for us to pray together. Sabbath is upon us, and it's going to be a busy, long day tomorrow. I know he's got enough energy. He's vegan, right? So there's all that energy. I had a salad with just radishes and onions today, and I feel empowered already. But for tomorrow, we need endurance, because the program is going to be long from 10 to 6. This whole Sabbath is a special Sabbath for us, and as Sabbath is upon us, just bow your heads for prayer. Gracious Heavenly Father, for the first time, the church family is assembled here, and there are quite a few community friends that came along. We ask a special blessing on this hour as Dr. Diehl shares his story with us. Bless him, that as you inspire him by your Holy Spirit, that inspiration would touch everyone, that our hearts and minds would be moved by your Spirit tonight. And we also ask a special blessing on people from all around that are planning to come and be with us tomorrow, that in spite of weather, or maybe even prevent the bad weather, that they could come and fellowship with us tomorrow, that it truly would be a joy to grow together in knowledge and in commitment to live healthy lives. We invite your presence here in the name of Jesus. Amen.
I knew that you had onions for supper. No. Dan, thank you for honoring my request. Oh Canada, that's a great song. I love that song. It reverberates within me, because 49 years ago I came to Canada. It has been a great experience. Of course, I left after a while to take care of some assignments at Loma Linda, but this is a great place. The best place to be tonight is here. Do you agree? And thank you also for that chip song, which has been circulating on 4 continents. That's right. Wherever you have a chip program, wherever you have a chip chapter, people know your song. It's one of their favorite songs, and thank you for singing that for us last night. Thank you very, very much. And thank you, folks, for coming out. I know people are looking for some rest on Friday night. Instead, you're coming to a very, very special place to celebrate God's grace. To celebrate. Okay. It's a very special pleasure for me to be with you here and to share God's very special care for all of us. I know many of you could share some of your special experiences how God has led, protected, and guided. Well, let me start again. This is just to warm up my voice. I am very delighted to be with you here tonight and to celebrate God's special care for us. I know that many of you could tell and share your stories of how God has led and protected and guided you. Tonight, I would like to take the opportunity to share with you how God has opened many, many doors for me. As a matter of fact, 9 doors. So you can follow me. When I get to number 9, it should be about 11 o'clock. Then I'm done. No, we'll probably take about an hour and 15 minutes. But, you know, somebody said, we live life in the forward-moving mode. We look forward, but we understand life in looking back. And as we begin to understand our past, we also begin to realize something that it shapes our future. So God still opens doors. He does. I remember the door number one. I was born into a very humble family, 6 children in the family. After World War II, we had nothing. We just had a drive to rebuild what tragedy had before in this country. And I was born into a Lutheran family. And I remember I was in the catechism class to be confirmed into the Lutheran church when I was 13, 14 years of age. We would meet usually on a Wednesday evening. But the interesting thing was that on a Tuesday night, we would have a man delivering some healthy bread to our family. It was called Graham bread. It's after one of the pioneers in the grain industry in the 18th century, Dr. Graham, and he had promoted whole wheat bread. They call this Graham bread. And our family apparently liked the baker that made this, and the baker would send his van over to our house and to other customers to deliver this bread. And this man who delivered the bread was an Adventist man. And somehow my father and this man would get into a lot of interesting discussions. I never heard some of these kind of things that they talked about. And so it was of very great interest for me to try to stick around the family room, and when I was sent to bed, to listen to what was going on. And I heard them talk about things I've never heard before. I mean, they talked about the book of Daniel. I mean, I know about the book of Daniel. I mean, we had studied this in our Lutheran church, Daniel in the lion's den. We all knew these studies. No, they didn't talk about that. They talked about Daniel as a prophetic book, helping us to understand the empires that would come and go in the history of this world. And I was just all ears. And then they talked about baptism. And they talked about the idea that Jesus was baptized, and the baptism in the Jordan of the people was always by immersion. I never heard of such a thing. I just thought it was sort of a dry cleaning method. You just sprinkle something on and you're done. And then they talked about a book called The Great Controversy, A War in Heaven. And of course, when you are 14 years of age and you're interested to try to understand the world, and then you hear these historical concepts, it just kind of drove me to these stories. And it wasn't before too long that my Lutheran pastor, a very, very nice gentleman, they have been very, very good to our family, because many of these care packages that came from America and probably also from Canada that were sent to Germany after World War II, they were distributed by this Lutheran pastor. And so we had many of these wonderful things coming to us to keep us warm. But the Lutheran pastor made one mistake. Remember, I was listening to these stories because this man would come every Tuesday night to deliver the bread, and he would always stay a long time there. He didn't just deliver the bread. No. He talked about the bread of life. And then the next day, I would be in my catechism class. And my Lutheran pastor friend made one mistake. He said, "Does anybody have a question?" And I asked the very questions that they had discussed the night before. And I began to realize that the picture of the world that my Lutheran pastor had, and the picture of the world that this Adventist man described, and the picture of Jesus was totally different. I mean, I had never heard that Jesus was the creator of the world. I've never heard this before. And here I began to understand a much different concept. And it wasn't before too long that I took some Bible studies after my confirming class in the Lutheran Church. I took some Bible courses from the Adventist pastor, and the first door opened. I stepped into the Adventist church, into a new picture of God, a loving God who did everything he could to take care of me. But it was also God that I discovered that was interested in our health. And I learned about the Adventist health message. And I learned that Adventists apparently live longer than other people in America. They live longer than other people in Japan. They live longer than other people in Holland. And I got really excited about this. I finished my training in a corporation in Germany that was making coffee grinders and mixers and electrical appliances. I had a 3-year traineeship there. And then some of my new friends in the Adventist church in my hometown in Germany, they had left for Canada, for Montreal, and they wrote these glorious letters. You ought to come over here. It's a huge country, economic opportunities. You can become anything you want to become. This is the country that you need to come. And the adventuresome aspects of my life bubbled upward very, very quickly. And I said, I want to come. Well, but I had to finish first my traineeship. I finished this. And then I was gone on my way to Montreal because the company I worked for had a branch office there. And my parents were very happy to let me go because it freed one more room for the other kids. And so when I came to Canada, when I came to Montreal, I began to realize something I had never thought of before. You see, when you were born after World War II in Germany, if your father was a plumber, you become a plumber. When your father was a university professor, you become a university professor. You basically stay where everybody is. There's no upward mobility. But when I came to Canada, they said you can become anything you want to become. But I also began to ask some questions about, as I came to the churches in Montreal, nobody talked about the health message there. I mean, I was excited about this health message that I had learned in Germany by learning from my Adventist pastor. And then I come to Montreal. Nobody talks about the health message. People are large, they waddle. And I said, we have a wonderful message. Why don't we get this message out to the people? The people need this. The people want this. People are interested in health. Why don't we take it out? And I couldn't understand it. And so the first door was a change in my religion, to understand, have a larger picture of God. The second door that opened was a change in the country of living. I had now come to Montreal. I'd come to Canada. Well, actually, I came to Quebec. Later, I came to Canada. These were the days when they had all these separatist movements there. I just couldn't really believe it. But I was in Montreal, and then the third door began to open up. As I was selling coffee grinders, that was my job. I was selling coffee grinders in Montreal. I was in the office there. I learned that you can become anything you want to be if you're willing to pay the price, and the price is commitment to education. I could overcome my limited career level that was parentally determined in Germany. I could become anything I wanted to become. But I had to first find a way to earn enough money to pursue a career and to find the educational money to do it. At the time, I was also concerned about the kind of claims that God had on my life. I began to think about ministry. I began to realize that God had taken care of me. I could live a purposeful life that was free of guilt, that was full of grace. And how would I really plan my career to go beyond involvement in business? And of course, when you think about this and you realize what God has done for you, you begin to think of, what can I do to return? And so I began to think of selling the milk of human kindness. What does that mean? Well, how can you help others? And so, of course, you think of health, you think of medicine, and the career began to become more in focus. And I now began to focus on a career change. Money. So I found this very attractive offer to go to the Noranda mines up in northern Ontario, where the seasons are cold and colder, especially when you go there in the wintertime. And I signed on to work in a mine to earn my money there. And I was working in a warehouse, and it was very interesting. You know, I thought I can make money there. I did. And I can learn English. Of course, I began to realize after a while the people spoke French there. They spoke English, and then they spoke another language that was the one that they were most proficient at, and that was called profane. And most of the time, I couldn't find certain words that they were using there in the mine. I looked it up in my dictionary, and it wasn't there, so I began to realize maybe I shouldn't use these words too often. So it didn't help my English, but it certainly helped my savings of money. And so I began to go to college. I went to Kingsway College, and I began to move towards Loma Linda University for a career in medicine. So, door number one, change in religion. Door number two, change in country. Door number three, change in career orientation. Now comes door number four. I'm on my way to enroll in the School of Medicine, and one night, the dean of the School of Public Health invites me to accompany him to a speaking appointment in Los Angeles. I travel with him, and as we're traveling home, he says to me, "Hans, you have a background in marketing, you have a background in business, you have an interest in our Adventist health message. Have you ever thought of not going into medicine and instead join us at Loma Linda in the School of Public Health?" And he said, "We have just started a brand new program. Last year, it would be perfect for you." You see how God opened the doors? And he said, it's called the Doctorate in Health Science. And it promotes health, and it prepares you for a career in selling the concepts of health. It's an educational career. You take basically the first 2 years of medicine, and then you take 2 years of public health, and it prepares you to move into the arena in where I think the next major breakthrough will come, and that is we have an avalanche of chronic diseases emerging in our society today. And most of these diseases, like heart disease and diabetes and hypertension and obesity, we cannot cure with medication. We can just alleviate some of the symptoms, but we don't cure these diseases. This would be an outstanding career for you because you enjoy marketing, you enjoy working with people, you enjoy teaching. Would you consider it? And I was stunned that God had just created this special doctorate program only 1 year earlier as a brand new program in the university, the first one in the nation. And here I am. And so I sign up, and I do well, and I become infused with a solid database for a healthier lifestyle that will help people to live happier and longer lives. I'm at the university, I get a job there, and then somebody calls me from a place called the Pritikin Longevity Center in Santa Barbara. It's about 168 miles from where I live, but it was a very controversial program because this man, Nathan Pritikin, as an engineer, and I'll tell you the story tomorrow afternoon, this man, as an engineer, looked at disease differently from the medical professionals. He looked at these diseases like heart disease and diabetes and hypertension. He asked the question, why do we have these diseases in North America, but we don't have them in many countries around the world? Why in certain countries only? What are the reasons for this? And of course, this is what we call epidemiology. We study the epidemic of a country. We ask the question, why here, but why not there? And this man had opened up a health clinic where people would come for 30 days to learn how to live on a very simple diet that came out of the hand of a master designer. He would feed these people foods as grown. There was no room for Oreos and for French fries and for M&Ms and for meat and for chicken. It wasn't there. He gave these people simple menus that he prepared in the clinic there. His staff did, of course. And they consisted mostly of fresh fruits, vegetables, whole grains, not white flour, and legumes, vegetables, and, beans and lentils. Very simple foods. And he would walk these people. He introduced them to exercise, how to walk every day. Many of these people came, they didn't even know how to walk anymore. They were diseased. They were on 10, 15, 20, 30 pills a day. They had seen the very best doctors. They would come to this center there, and within 2, 3, 4 weeks, these people were restored. Health was restored. There were many times off most of the medications. The angina, in 2 out of 3 cases, had diminished or had left them. The diabetes, when they were taking insulin, 100, 150 units, was down to 10 or 20 units or totally gone. And it was like a miracle place. And yet, the medical establishment kind of didn't look with great favor on this engineer who was practicing medicine without a license. Are you with me there? So when the opportunity came, I said yes. I left university, and everybody thought I had just lost it. Just gone too far. But you see, I knew in my heart that this squared very, very well with a special concept that was entrusted to the Adventist Church way back in 1863. That's now 150 years ago. This gentleman was not an Adventist. This man was a Jewish gentleman. And he became, over time, his right-hand person. And I was part of that miracle place in Southern California where people came debilitated, and they would turn their lives around. How? Through education, through motivation, through simple foods, and through the use of these 2 legs, walking. I was very, very enthused about this, and my wife didn't mind at all that I would be traveling every Monday morning, the 168 miles to Santa Barbara, and I would come back on Thursday night to be home for a long weekend with the family. She was a great supporter. And the stories I told her, they were just about unbelievable as they appeared to me to be unbelievable if I would have not been there to become the research director of this place. What we saw there was an apparent reversal of many of our common modern killer diseases that have to do with how we eat, how we drink, how we exercise, and whether or not we smoke. A program that was attacking the causes of disease rather than putting Band-Aids on to alleviate symptoms. But I recognize that, number one, not everybody could afford these live-in programs. I mean, you can go to the Pritikin program today. They have a great program, probably the #1 spa and health center in North America, in Miami, 5-star. You can go there today. You can spend 4 weeks there, husband and wife, and you can spend $22,000. Now, that's for the cheap accommodations. If you have 5-star accommodations, it's $45,000. And people go there from all over the world. And I thought to myself, I'm just a common person. I knew my upbringing. I knew where I came from. And I thought to myself, how can I take what I have learned here to a larger, broader audience? I also recognized that once these people came home, there was nobody there to help them. They'd been there for 4 weeks. They felt good. They were off many of their medications. They were just newborn. And yet, when they come home, their doctors didn't understand them. What are you doing? Foods has grown. How are you going to get your protein? How are you going to get your calcium? You're going to become anemic. This is dangerous. And friends said, well, you probably wasted your money going out there. So you had no support. And so I thought, we need to bring this program to the masses, and we need to take it to the community where we can then change the restaurants, we can have supportive care, and we transform the society. It has to be a transformation of our culture, because the culture teaches us all the wrong things. The culture says, eat, drink, and be merry, and tomorrow some doctor will take care of you. Wrong! We have nothing to offer in high-tech medicine when it comes to these chronic diseases. If you fracture your leg, we have some wonderful answers there. If you have an infectious disease, we have wonderful answers for you there. If you need to have a rare disease diagnosed, we have wonderful things that we can do in medicine. But to cure these modern diseases, we're very limited because it engages us. We have to help ourselves to make the changes. We have to change how we eat. We have to change how we drink. We have to change how we smoke, how we exercise. We have a part to play. And then, door number 5 opens up. Now, let's review what we have done so far. Door number 1, change in religion. Door number 2, change in country. Door number 3, change in career, the new orientation in my career. Door number 4, changing from treating disease to curing disease through a lifestyle medicine approach. Now comes door number 5. I received a phone call from Creston, British Columbia. And my medical friend, Sid Kettner, called me up. He said, Hans, can you come to Creston? I've been giving the annual health lecture for the community here for the last 5 years, and they all know my lecture. And he said, I used to talk to them about how to postpone your funeral. And he said, I need to have a new lecture. I don't have anything I can offer. Can you come and give a lecture? And I said, no. And he was very shocked. And I said, look, if you want to change disease, chronic disease, you have to change the habits of people. And one lecture doesn't make much difference. You just antagonize people. They don't really want to hear it. And those who hear it and they think, yeah, that's what I think, that's what I believe too, then they jam it down the throat of other people. You see, I told you though. No, this man is telling you the same thing, and all you do is you antagonize people. I said, I don't want to come. And he said, well, how many days does it take to change people's behaviors? And I said, well, the psychologists tell me it's about 21 days. You have to make your change 21 days in a row. Well, he said, are you coming to do a 21-day program to help me up here? And so I was now stuck. I had no more excuse. So I discussed it with Lillian. We had 2 children then, and she said, well, I think this is exactly what you've been training for. You ought to do it. So I went to Creston, and they had 400 people in our very first CHIP program in the middle of winter there, 1988. And so my career began to change from a residential treatment program from a clinic where we could just lock up people and just feed them the right food and exercise them on a treadmill all day long, and they were being very healthy within 2, 3, 4 weeks. But now it was going into the community and trying to find people that we could train, to find nurses, maybe physicians, good organizers, people that loved to serve others, and to empower them to run this program. Well, before we did this, I finished my program in Creston, and the results were marvelous. And then we moved from there to Vernon, and that's another small town, and 1,500 people signed up for a 4-week program, night after night, 4 nights a week. And then it moved to Kelowna, and they had 2,000 people, and then they had another 2 programs, so they had a total of 4,000 people. And then my wife said, by the way, when are you coming home? I mean, I was home for a few days, and then we'd go again. And then we would move to Cornwall, here in Ontario, and then to Ottawa, to the capital, to reach the legislators, to reach the parliamentarians there. And then it was an incredible progression that took place. But I also began to understand that we needed to develop healthy restaurants in these towns, because it's not enough to tell people you have to change your diet, and they may be doing this, but they also want to eat out. Especially in those days, it began sort of a fad, a fashion to eat out. See, we shifted from whole food to fractionized food. We shifted from cooked food that we did ourselves to eating out. This became sort of fashion. And so we began to realize that we had to develop restaurants or work with restaurants that would serve healthy foods. This all began to take place, and the program became a very success as I traveled across Canada. So that was door number 5, as we changed from residential treatment to community treatment programs, community education, empowering people to help themselves. Well, the program didn't stop in Ottawa. I'll tell you more about it tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock when I tell you the story of Robert Anderson. I mean, you want to be here at 10 o'clock. I'm going to start exactly at 10 o'clock. German punctuality tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. So be here before 10 o'clock. You get the best seats here, right? Oh, that's right. That's right. That's right. Yeah, you want to be there on time. At the Saunders Secondary School, right? That's right. It didn't stop in Ottawa, and I was called into the office by a special ministry called the Quiet Hour. They called me and they said, we are going to be on our way to India in the next 6-7 months. And in India, the people that come to adopt Christianity are oftentimes some of the poorer people, and we need to reach a different kind of a class to level things off a little bit, Because oftentimes, these poor people that come into the church don't even have enough tithe to support the ministry there of the pastors. Would you be interested in coming with us? And maybe you can reach the Brahmins, you can reach the affluent people in India with the message of health. Well, I had no idea what to do. I'd never been to India before. I didn't know how many people can you get into a program like this. How do you market this program? And so I said, well, yeah, I'd be very happy to do this. However, I need to do some research to find out what we can accomplish. So I had given my yes. 2 weeks later, a man stands at my door in Loma Linda at our house. He has rung the bell. I come to the door, and an Indian gentleman, a very distinguished gentleman, introduced themselves. I am Mr. Ramesh Pai, and I've been sent to see you. When could I have an hour with you? Well, I had an hour right there, and so I invited him in, and then he told me the story. He said, I am from India. I am an entrepreneur. I'm a businessman. And I have heart disease. And I took some of my medical professors of our medical school that we have. I took them on a trip around the world to look for answers to my heart disease. He said, we went to Japan, we went to Germany, we went to Switzerland, we went to all the places, the best places that treat heart disease. And we finally ended up at a place called the Pritikin Longevity Center in Santa Barbara. Remember? I was no longer working there at that time. I had a special fellowship with the government. And he said, what my colleagues and I saw impressed us so deeply that we asked this man, the owner, the engineer, Nathan Pritikin, we asked him, can we invite you to come to India and to help my millionaire friends? And he said, I cannot, but I know a man that can help you. I want you to go to 11538 Anderson Street in Loma Linda. There's a man by the name of Dr. Hans Diehl, and here he is. So I asked him, I said, well, sir, it's interesting because I have just made a commitment to go into India with a quiet hour and to do some health lectures in India. But, you know, India is large. So I said, which city do you come from? And he said, I come from Bangalore. Well, that's exactly the city that the quiet hour had designated that I should do my health evangelism. Do you see how God opens doors? So I said to him, you're from Bangalore. Well, I said, I have an appointment to be going to Bangalore to reach out to the people of Bangalore. Can you give me some idea what it's like? I said, I'd like to reach into the people that have heart disease. Oh, he said, I can help you. He said, I can give you 1,000 millionaires. 1,000 millionaires? Yeah. He said, they all have a special tattoo on their chest. It cost them about $100,000. These are surgical scars from their bypass surgery. You see, only the rich can afford the Western foods, and they have the disease, and so they come to North America, they get the operation, and they're okay for a while, and then the disease comes back because nobody told them, you've got to change. So I said, how would you get these people to come? Well, he said, I have good contacts. You know, I said, do you have a Rotary Club there in India? He said, yeah. We have about 200 some Rotary Clubs in Bangalore. That's a city of 8 million people then. It's 12 million now, which is the Silicon Valley today of India. Very modern. And he said, we have many Rotary Clubs. I mean, I can open these doors for you. I said, you could? He said, yes, I can, because I'm the governor of Rotary for all of India. And this man would accompany me to all the Rotary clubs. I mean, I would speak at 2 or 3 Rotary clubs a day for several weeks, and he would be the person that would travel with me in Bangalore. He would introduce me as the man from Loma Linda. He said he's an unusual man. He only has one wife. He has only one wife, and he doesn't eat any animal products. And I think he'll live forever, and he will be able to help us. So I was amazed. Then I said to him, so we can expose business people, Rotarians, to these concepts. But is there a hospital where I possibly can have all the blood tests done for our CHIP program? As you know, we do blood samples before the program and after the program so people can see for themselves how powerful this program is to lower the risk and to improve and restore the health of people. But you have to document this, so you do it with blood pressure measurements, you do it with glucose measurements, you do it with cholesterol numbers and so on. And I said, is there a hospital where they have perhaps some of these modern Kodak analyzers of the blood? And he said, I think we do. He said, we have the largest hospital. We own the largest hospital in Bangalore, and we just have our brand new Kodak analyzing equipment installed, and we are just bringing our top man back from the US where he was trained how to run these machines, and he'll be here and he can help you. So I said, well, I need to have some physicians to help me too. How do I get some physicians to help me? Oh, he said, I can help you there too, because we run the largest privately owned medical school in India. And he said, my cousin is the dean of the medical school, and he can just assign these residents to work in Bangalore with you for those 5, 6, 7 weeks. Wow. I said, I only have American recipes in my cookbook. How do I get Indian recipes? He looked at me, he said, oh, don't worry about this. We have a school of dietetics, and I assign our very best dietitian to translate the book and put the best recipes in. They should be very low in fat, is that right? Low in fat, low in salt, yes, low in salt. Low in sugar, yes, low in sugar. Lord, how is this possible? I said, how do we get this book printed? Oh, he said, I wouldn't worry about this, because we have some of the big presses in town, because we also run the newspaper here. And we can get you into the newspapers. We can write all the stories about you. I'll take care of all of this. I mean, I just went from one miracle to another. It was just hard to believe that this is all happening right in front of me. And then he posed the question. He said, how are you financing your trip to coming to Bangalore? He said, let me make a proposal to you. How would you feel if we take care of all the advertising, we bring you 1,000 people into the hall, we take care of everything, the rental of the hall, the blood test, everything is taken care of, and the only thing that you probably would have to do is, find someone to pay for your trip from Los Angeles to Bangalore. Would that be something that you could do? I said, well, let me first talk to my lawyer. No, I didn't say that. I said, I just couldn't believe it. I said, I think that would be very acceptable. Let me talk to the quiet hour and find out what they want to do. And I said, when would you like to do this? Oh, he said, probably in 6 months. Before you can even answer. I mean, before you can even ask, the answer's already there. I said, Lord, you are an absolutely trustworthy God. You surprise us beyond our imagination. So when I came to Bangalore, we had 1,500 millionaires there in a beautiful hall. They brought their chefs. They have all their personal cooks. They invited me into their marbleized homes. I mean, they live in villas and mansions. I mean, if you're rich in India, you're really rich. When you're poor, you're really poor. There's very little in between. So these people were very, very eager. They sat there spellbound as I was trying to help them to understand. And they said, we have never understood this. No one has ever told us this. We thought if you have a high-tech medical intervention for the heart disease, you put a vein in from the legs, you stitch it in, wow, $150,000, you're okay. I mean, it took 30, 40, 50 years to develop this disease. I have now clean veins inserted here. We thought we were good for another 50 years. We had the Bill Gates of India in our program, and he said, tell the people, there's only one true wealth, and that's health. Because I have all the money in the world, but I have already had 2 bypass surgeries, and I'm clogged up again. Thank you for coming. And the former Minister of Health for the country of India was in our program at the graduation. And he said, isn't it amazing that an American man, actually I'm German, but that doesn't make much difference, but he said, isn't it amazing that an American man was brought here to bring us back to our traditional Hindu diet of vegetarianism. A diet that leaves out alcohol, that leaves out smoking, and advocates a simple diet. This is our Hindu diet that we have let drift away from us. It was wonderful to be there. So this was now door number 6, right? Are we number 6? I think number 5 was changing from residential treatment to community-based education program. Now the door opens up from Canada to India. And then they established the Healthy Hearts Club, and they just celebrated their 20th anniversary. They wrote to me a few months ago and they said, Dr. Diehl, you started this program here 20 years ago. We're now celebrating here. These people are affluent. They established their own library on health. They established their own healthy room in the large supermarkets there. This was the chip room dedicated to chip foods, simple foods. We introduced into India brown rice. Even though they grow so much rice in India, they had no brown rice. And we said, no, you want to have brown rice. They couldn't find any brown rice. So they brought brown rice in, and you can go to this Negri supermarket, and you find a room there dedicated to chip after 20 years, still doing well. And they meet every month, and they have their own newspaper, their magazine. And so I had the joy of writing an article for their 20th special issue, 20th year. So that's India. And of course, some 3-4 years later, again, they called me and they said, we would like you to come and give us a refresher course. We want to bring another 1,000 millionaires out. And we would like to bring your lovely wife. We want to meet her too. So we were just excited about this. We learned to appreciate the unique, generous hospitality of Indian people. They took beautifully care of us. I can't tell you what they did. Let me just give you an example. On the last day, the graduation from the CHIP program there, my wife she's a pianist, and she has had some renditions to honor the people there. And then, you know, they make long speeches. Oh, they repeat everything that you have said. They make it a little bit shorter, and then they praise you. And then we were standing there, and there was a tall wall about this high, and we didn't know anything about this. They had a ladder behind there. And then somebody climbed up there and poured rose petals, buckets full, over us. I mean, I had a beautiful Nehru jacket, a white jacket. It was ruined, but it didn't matter. It was such a lovely gesture. And then they came with a garland this was, I don't know how many thousands of roses. And somehow they had measured us without us realizing it. They knew exactly how tall we were. And then they put this large garland around our necks. It went all the way like this, all the way to our ankles, both my wife and I. And there we stood. It was so heavy. Wonderful people, absolutely wonderful people, just absolutely wonderful people. And so then from India, we now moved to Kalamazoo, Michigan, and to Rockford, Illinois. In Kalamazoo, in Michigan, we had a hospital that invited us to do the CHIP program for the employees and for the community. And they enrolled 3,000 people for 4 nights, a week for 4 weeks. Okay? And it was at that time that I realized that I cannot traipse all over the world and do these programs myself. I need to put them on some video and then train people and give it to the trainers, and then they can use the videos, and we can distribute this all over the world through videos. Well, how do you find a video company? I didn't have a clue. This was not my field, and so I just looked through the Yellow Pages videographers. And I talked to the person, and he said, what do you need? You need 3 cameras or 4 cameras to film this? I didn't have a clue. I said, I don't know, maybe 3. I said, sir, what do you want? I said, I don't know. So he began to give me a little bit of education, and he said, you have to have a camera on you, you have to have a camera on the slides, and you have to have a camera on the audience, and we'll put it in post-production all together for you. And I said to him, how much would it cost? And they gave me a price. And I said, well, tell me, why should I choose you? I mean, what are the advantages for me to working with you? Is this economically price-worthy, right? Is this the right thing to do? And how much education and how much experience does your team have to do this? And the man said very coolly, he said, well, we're the official videography company for Bob Hope. Would that be okay? I said, yes, I'm taking it. And so I invited these people to come into our lectures there at the hospital and to just take pictures as I was talking, to film. And you know, I didn't even have these lectures all mapped out exactly, so it would be 59 minutes. You know, sometimes there would be 58 minutes, sometimes there would be 62 minutes. Nobody had even thought about timing this exactly. We were just helping the people. And the cameras were filming everything very, very well. And then they would go into post-production. We would take a few sentences out here. We'd take a paragraph out here. So it became sort of a 60-minute, roughly, program. 60-minute program. I'm just telling you that I was not really an expert in this field at all. And yet, these videos have brought in over 60,000 people to learn what they can do to help themselves. It's absolutely amazing. And while I was in Kalamazoo, Michigan, I received a phone call, and they said, this is Dr. Greenlaw. I'm calling from Rockford, Illinois. I'm calling from one of the hospitals here, the Swedish American Hospital, and we have heard that you have a program in Kalamazoo. Can we come and take a look at what you do? Well, I had no idea where Rockford was. I had no idea what the Swedish American Hospital was. I had to look it all up to learn very fast. And then they came with a team of 5 top-notch administrators to watch our program there for 2 days. And they were totally stunned. I said, that's exactly what we want to do. How much will it cost us? I didn't have a clue. I said, Lord, don't make me appear like a total fool. Help me out here. And I just postponed it for a few days and said, I'll visit you in Rockford, and the program is over here, and then I'll make a proposal to you. And I was then scrambling for some people to tell me, what do you charge for something like this? Because they wanted me to enroll several thousand people in the program there in Rockford. They said, we have a city of 170,000 people. We want to make this the healthiest city in the Midwest. Can you help us? We like what you're doing here in this town. We had 3,000 people there in this town. So they called me up and they said, can you come? And I said, yes. And here comes God again. We're enrolling 300 to 400 people per program. I do it myself. We didn't use the videos yet. So I did it myself. And I would be going to the Rotary clubs. I would go to Daimler, Chrysler, the big car company, the automotive company. We would do programs there. And all the doors began to open up. And then the hospital came to me and they said, would you be interested in making this a special research project? We have $1 million available to you from the state of Illinois that we can devote to this program, and we make this what they call a randomized clinical trial. This is a gold standard for doing research. And of course, we did this. We ran many, many programs there in Rockford. We had 6,000 people in the program over a period of 3 years. The research has generated over 20 scientific publications in some of them world-renowned medical journals. And this has made CHIP one of the most and best reported medical research projects, perhaps, in the literature. So this has been very, very outstanding, that God opened the doors to $1 million grant to provide the research that we could not publish. And once you're published, that's what researchers, that's what physicians, that's what scientists read. That becomes the gold standard that you're being judged by. And now comes door number, where are we now? Door number 8? No. Was it number 7? Number 7. Now you come to number 8. We took the films that were shot in Kalamazoo, and they were now post-edited and made into some very useful videotapes. We began to train people now in earnest, and we had some 400 teams in North America trained. And then the calls came from New Zealand and from Australia and from England and from Germany and from the Philippines, and the CHIP program began to spread wide and wide and wide. Now comes door number 8. I'm turning 65. My wife comes to me and she says, honey, you're turning 65. You're retiring. What does our pension plan look like? How much money have you saved? She knew there was nothing there, but she just wanted to draw my attention to it. She had helped with the funding of this ministry, and in part. She was always part of my team. And I said, I don't know. And I approached the university, I approached various organizations to acquire my program. And the university said, well, we would like to do it, but we have no guarantee that the medical center will not just put it on the shelf and not use it. You want your baby to be taken care of, right? I said, yes, this is my life. This is 25 years of my life. And then the phone call comes to us while we're in New Zealand, my wife and I, to run some other programs there. The call comes to us, and it said, this is Sanitarium Food Company. This is an Adventist food company. This is just like Sanitarium in Battle Creek that turned into the Battle Creek Kellogg's company. They kind of moved in a different direction than health. But this company, Sanitarium Food in Australia, started also by the same founder, E.G. White. They stayed the course, healthy foods. And they called and they said, we are so impressed about the CHIP program that has been running in New Zealand and also now in Australia here, that we would be interested to find out if you would be interested in negotiating with us to give us a license to run your program ourselves as a company in Australia and New Zealand. And the more I thought about it, I said to them afterwards, I said, why don't you just take the whole program over? Why don't you just buy our website? Why don't you take over the whole ministry, everything that we have, the books, everything. It's all yours. All the rights belong to you, because I need to have an affluent, parent that will adopt my baby of 25 years, my chip baby. I mean, I want this to be alive and well, and it needs new resources. It needs to have new videotapes. It needs to have new books. You know, we need to bring it into the 21st century. It has served its time very well. It's moving into adolescence now, but we need to have some real good parents to take care of this baby. And they said, well, we would be very, very happy to do this. Let me tell you, folks, this company in the last 2 years has put $4 million plus dollars into this program to make this perhaps one of the best video programs I've ever seen, with some of the finest books. Everything is there. And how many of you have been through the new CHIP program? Let me see your hands. Okay? Didn't they do a wonderful job? And they brought some wonderful speakers there, experts like Darren Morton. They brought top-notch people to enlarge the program that I used to do all by myself earlier. And I feel so grateful that God opened these 8 special doors. In closing, if you ask me what is my greatest joy, is the fact that I found a wonderful wife in Canada. She was teaching at Kingsway College. Then she moved to Andrews University, and I was smart enough to move to Andrews University too. Because when that special lady was born, I know that the angels danced in heaven. I know it. And when I married her, I mean, I just knew it, that they threw a party for me. I was a very lucky man. She has been my inspiration for the last 43 years. She has been my soulmate. She has encouraged my dreams. She has nurtured my ambitions. She has helped to move a seedling to maturity into a full plant. Plus, she has given me 2 beautiful children. And of course, since then, we have 4 grandchildren. So I'm just a very, very, very grateful man tonight of how God has blessed with a good family that has stood by my side all the time. And then if you ask me, what is your greatest source of professional joy? What gives you the greatest satisfaction? I think it resides in the fact that I felt blessed by God, who opened so many doors beyond my comprehension, beyond my understanding. I mean, think about this man from India standing at the door saying, we want you to come to Bangalore, and I just signed on 2 weeks earlier. Remember? Think about this. How is it that I'm coming from Germany and my wife comes from the Philippines as a Filipino Chinese? We meet in Canada, and that's it. Wonderful. So my greatest source of satisfaction is to know that God has blessed us beyond our comprehension, and that I have had the privilege of helping people to turn their despair into hope and to put them on the pathway of hope and health and healing with all of its priceless benefits. People spend $20,000 to $40,000 to go to a program in Miami, and we can open this up to the whole communities for basically a nominal price with blood tests and everything involved. And then we can stay with the people because we have wonderful volunteers, you know, like Gordon and Kathy and the team that has worked with you the last 11 years. And so when you called me up and said, Hans, we have our 20th CHIP program in London. Is there a way that you can come and be with us? I said, absolutely. We're very, very proud of what you have done. And don't let him tease you again. Just let him sleep on the porch tonight, right? Okay. So, folks, it's a wonderful opportunity for me to thank God for providing an opportunity for me to go beyond medicine and to provide education and motivation and inspiration to people in the community, and especially to our own churches, because we are also drifting into the secular lifestyle of the American culture. So my message to you tonight is that God is a gracious God. He has entrusted to us a very special message of hope and health for over 130 years. He wants us to be in the best possible health. And we as scientists begin to realize now more than ever that most of our illnesses, once we are 40 years of age, most of our illnesses are largely self-made. They relate to a culture that is seducing us into these crazy diets. Yeah, they taste good, but they destroy us. They taste good, and they hook us into an addictive pattern we can't get out. And God says, trust me. I have prepared the best food for you. And as you do, your taste buds will change, and you will begin to love my food. And the benefits I give you through my foods will be priceless. Shall we pray? Our Father in heaven, we are overwhelmed of how you are making yourself available to intervene in our lives and to bless us beyond our comprehension. We thank you for these precious moments tonight here. We invite you into our hearts to give us the health and the joy of being a blessing to others. In Jesus' name, amen.
I just heard a story that I hadn't heard before too. I've heard pieces of that, but I hadn't heard the whole story as he told it tonight. I just want to remind everybody that we have 2 more days left to hear Dr. Diehl. All day tomorrow at Saunders Secondary on Viscount Road by Westmount Mall, starting at 10 o'clock sharp, and then continuing, I think, until about 6. And then there'll be 1 program here on Sunday afternoon at 3. And then for our new graduates will be their graduation that we just finished the CHIP program at 5 o'clock on Sunday. So I hope to see all of you and your friends out tomorrow at Saunders, and there will be a lunch there, and we encourage everybody to bring food. So, oh, Hans sees a lady here that he talks a lot about today.
This is my special girlfriend. You're standing. Is something on your mind, or are you just trying to change positions?
No, I have to change position all the time. I got to be active all the time.
I thought you were standing up for me. We talked about you all day today, didn't we? You gave us such an inspiration last night. It's the best, and I really want to get a footage of what you said on film. You were a special inspiration. I wish you could travel with me everywhere and tell your story.
I wish I had enough time to tell you everything that I do, because there's just not enough time.
We have to make some time for this. For Teresa, isn't it? Since I have the mic now. No, you have a great opportunity to invite your friends to a program that I'm going to do on Sunday at 3 o'clock. It's entitled Eat More and Weigh Less. Do you have people that like to eat more? Do you like to have people that would like to weigh less? Tomorrow we're going to give you, no, on Sunday we give you the formula of how to do it. A special formula that's guaranteed to work for you. How to eat more, but the right foods, and to weigh less.
And for you, those of you who never received one of the books we have giving away, I'll have some at the door when you're leaving. I know a lot of you have got the book already. but I'll have a box of them at the back there to hand out to those who never got one. So have a good evening, drive home safe, and we'll see you tomorrow at 10 at Saunders.